Welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm so excited to have you here. My name is Tolu. I'm your friendly Christian relationship counselor. So if you've ever wondered, what does it look like to marry a godly man? Who is a godly man and why am I not married to him yet? I've been trusting God for so long. What is going on? Then you need to watch this video. Just sit down and let's get started. So the first thing I want you to know about when you are going to marry a godly man is you need to work with God's timing and not your own timing. That is the problem. I will say this. When you step outside of God's timing, you are going to waste your time. That is inevitable. It is very important that you learn to adhere to the timing God has given you. And this is something I work with my dating to marry clients on, because it is so important that you learn to walk by the Spirit. As we are told in Galatians 5, you keep in step with the Spirit. That will change the way you meet people. It will change the kind of men you date. It will change the way you decide who you're going to marry, and it will keep you in track with the timing God has for you, which is the fastest timing you can be on anyway, because supernatural alignment moves beyond human speed and human understanding. I also want you to know that because you're making this decision, you will be triggered. What I mean by you will be triggered is you will come into certain circumstances and situations where you will be confronted with your own desires that are mostly idolatrous. This is something dating to marry clients know, wife in waiting sisters know, but I want you to understand that in this process of being triggered, God is going to be pushing you into his timing, and that is why he is going to put you in a position where you will be forced to drop certain habits, certain relationships, pick up certain instructions and start moving. That is how you are going to be on the fastest route to meeting the man God has for you and marrying a godly man. The next point is this will happen when you start being fully obedient, emphasis on fully obedient to the work he has for you. Now, there are different stages in stepping into your purpose. It's something I work with you if you're a dating to marry client on, because this is very much a significant and foundational part of meeting the right man for you. The first thing I want you to understand is God has a purpose for you. You may be in the beginning stage. You may have already started the journey. You may be in the expansion stage. But the point is you need to start that process. The thing with walking with God and working with him is he's not going to tell you, Jane, start saving money because you're about to get married and you're going to be planning a wedding, so you need some money saved up. He's not going to tell you need to stop being rude or you need to start being more hardworking, because when you start running your family and your home, those are skills you're going to require to run an efficient and enjoyable household and create an environment for your home and your husband and your children. No, that's not how he talks. When he talks to you, he will simply say, you know what, you need to stop spending so much money and start saving. You know what, it's about time that you started that show. It's about time that you applied for that job. It's about time that you spoke to your supervisor about a promotion. That is how he will talk to you about your marriage. And this is what I work with you in dating to marry on. You need to understand the specific instructions that God is giving you for your own marriage and move in accordance with that in your purpose. It manifests through your purpose, and it can only come into fruition when you are on that journey. It doesn't matter if you're in the starting phases or you've already begun or you are trying to expand that purpose he has given you. That's not the point. The point is you have become that person, that woman, that wife in waiting that he has designed you to be by stepping into your purpose intentionally, fully obedient to him. This will happen when you start praying over your future husband and your future marriage. And this is why we have prayer journals available for your future husband. Currently, we have 4 journals and counting. But the point that I really want you to get here, and this is something I tell my wife in waiting sisters and I make you do in dating to marry, because you're working with me on a one-on-one basis. You're going to pray for your husband. You need to pray for your future marriage, because let me tell you, prayer puts you into a place of discernment so quick that you will be getting revelation, you'll be getting understanding, you'll be seeing patterns on a much faster level and a much fluid state than if you were not praying over your husband and your marriage. It makes you very sensitive to men that are wasting your time, and it makes you sensitive to men that are truly, actually, genuinely interested in you, which we break down in Dating to Marry. I show you the specific ways to know when a man is actually curious or actually, interested in getting to know you for the purposes of marriage. But prayer is one of those ways, and it's a very significant part of that process, because when you pray, you are literally getting into alignment with your spirit first, which should come first as you're dating anyway. So you're going to be receiving revelation about your husband and your marriage, and you will know on a much faster level when this is it, like this is the one for me. I also want you to know that your prayer in your singleness is going to connect you to the man you marry, and it's going to have a significant impact on when you get married. So because and this is why we have wife in waiting prayer conventions, there may be patterns you need to break, there may be revelations that you are not aware of that can only come to you through prayer. This will happen when you start treating your singleness like a season and not a sentence. And literally in Dating to Marry, I work with you on understanding how to approach your singleness so you start attracting men that are intentional and ready for marriage. Because this is the truth. If you treat your singleness like a disease, like some sort of sentence, you are not going to attract marriage-minded men. You're going to attract toxic men, you're going to attract time wasters, you're going to attract manipulative, narcissistic men, but you will not attract marriage-minded men, because you are coming with a mindset of scarcity, and that doesn't attract abundance. So when you start treating your singleness like a season, it is going to have a very significant impact on the kind of men you attract and even the kind of marriage you birth. For some women, unfortunately, because they've treated their marriage like a disease, they get married to a man that treats, or rather, because they've treated their singleness like a disease, they get married to a man that treats marriage like it's a disease. And of course, God can heal marriages, and he does it on a daily basis. But what we're really trying to do for you here is make sure you step into a godly marriage that is filled with abundance. And that starts when you treat your singleness like a season, which it is. You will get married to a godly man when you become practical with your faith. This is why in Dating to Marry, our sessions are extremely practical. You can ask any of my clients. I am fond of giving you tasks, because what I want you to understand is the marriage God has called you to is spiritual, but it also is going to manifest physically. So sis, put in the work. Faith without work is dead. Start making those connections, meeting people, be collaborative, be open to opportunities, put yourself in spaces where you can truly make genuine connections and relationships, and this will change the kind of people you meet. You will change as a result of making connections and meeting people, and you will be in a position to meet the man God has for you. Marry your prayer with practicality. And let me tell you something. When you pray, God is going to give you very specific instructions on how you can be practical. Literally instructions that a human being will not have given you in that situation. It will come by his spirit to your understanding, so you can marry practicality in a way that is favorable to putting you in a position where you will meet marriage-minded men, and you will meet other people that will birth the woman, the wife, the business that God has called you to, and ultimately the ministry he has for you. You will meet and marry a godly man, that the husband God has for you, when you learn to stop relying on other people's marriages as a template for your own. I say this to my wife in waiting sisters. I say this to Dating to Marry clients. God has your own template for marriage. You do not need to turn somebody else's testimony into your own trial, because that's all it's going to be. God did not call you to that particular ministry. That's why you are not in that marriage. That's why you're not that wife to that particular man. You have your own marriage, and God has a mission for your marriage. He looks beyond the fact that you want to get married. He already knows your children, your grandchildren, your lineage. He knows the entirety of your family background and your household and your future. So let him give you the template for your marriage. When you start understanding this, it is going to change the kind of men you date and you ultimately marry. And this is something I work with you on in Dating to Marry very intentionally, because I want you to catch the vision and start running with it as scripture tells us, so that you can birth the marriage and the ministry that God has given you. Finally, I'm going to say this. When you start dating men based on what God has told you and not what you decided to hear on your own, you will attract and marry the man God has for you. And this is a point I really want you to get. The fact that you're called to marriage is part of that promise. But the process requires you to listen, run with, and obey and carry out fully what God has told you. The men God will bring you before will serve different purposes. Not all of them will be your husband, but one of them will be him. So it's important that you learn through this journey to listen and run with what God has told you and date in accordance with that, instead of dating based on your preferences or your temporary desires or out of your loneliness or your selfishness or your fears, because that will not birth the promise that you are waiting and trusting God for. It will only birth frustration, resentment, anger, feelings of being left behind. And I'm sure you resonate with some of those feelings. So what I want you to do is start moving with what God has told you and dating men based on what he has revealed to you. And this is something I work with you very specifically on in Dating to Marry. So these are the reasons why you haven't met the man God has for you, and this is the process you need to start using to attract the right man for you. I've outlined some of these points. If you want to go deeper, Dating to Marry will open shortly. I will share the link in the description box. I've worked with women that have stepped into marriage, stepped into motherhood, and it's really just a joy for me to see the birth of the promise, but more importantly, stepped fully into the woman God has called them to become. I'll share the details in the description box. I really want you to get these points, so I'll go over them again. When you learn to trust God's timing, when you learn to move with the marital template he has given you, when you learn to start walking on the field in full obedience to what he has told you, when you date in accordance with what he has revealed to you, you will start attracting the right men, one of which will be your husband. Also important, you remember to be practical with your faith, to pray over your future marriage and your husband, to treat your singleness like a season and not a sentence. And that's it. I have a free guide available to get you started as well, to show you how to identify the right man for you. It's very practical and it's free. So click the link in the description box below to get your copy. You will also see details on joining the waitlist for Dating to Marry if you want to be one of the 4 women I work exclusively and personally with, to help you date to attract your husband. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And let me know your thoughts below. I'm curious which point resonated with you the most. I will see you next time. Bye.